Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified podcast, your home for all things 3-0, Eric, 3-0 Washington Commanders. How good do we feel right now? Did I say
Look,
3-0? I'm already making an assumption about this week. We are
say, did I
2-0.
miss something? Yeah, we were 3-0 in the preseason.
2-0.
Feeling good, man. That was a fun game to watch the other day. And kind of the high from the game is worn off, and the panic from the last second nonsense has kind of subsided. And just going back and rewatching it, and just what a solid game it was after the debacle of like the first like 20 minutes of the game kind of calmed down. It just turned into just a beatdown. And it was great to watch. It was a really, really good team win. So yeah, I'm very excited moving forward. We got a real test this week, though.
We do, but I feel like this is the first time we're winning on offense and defense. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm most excited about, is that both sides of the ball are winning. We have to cure our problem about we have halves that just don't function the way that you think they should, and then we turn it on, right? So now we got to put it all together. If you're going to beat a team like Buffalo, you definitely need to bring it for 4 quarters. So I'm very happy with last week. As you can tell, I'm already moved on to this week.
You already chalked up that dub.
W. We do need to pay our bills, though. Do you have the ad read ready, Eric?
We do not have an ad read tonight.
Oh, okay. Bills ain't getting paid tonight.
No, they didn't send us one. We're off for a few weeks. I think I did such a sucky job. They fired me. So might need one of you guys to do it. Yeah, we didn't get one this week. Yeah, and if we did, I'm sorry, DraftKings.
Yep. Shout out to
CDB 11. Go do it.
Use our code anyway.
It's a potluck
with potato casserole. All right. Eric, talk to me about your initial thoughts on this matchup just out the gate against Buffalo.
It's a huge test, and I'm very excited to watch it because, this team played Buffalo 2 years ago, and I think it was like early in the season. It was like week 3, similar to this. Maybe it was week 2, and it was just a bloodbath. They just destroyed us, and it was like 43-21, and it was not that close. And Ron at that point had said that this is a litmus test for us. This is kind of a measuring stick to see where you are, and we were not measuring up at that point. I think this team is much improved since then. Specifically, I mean, at the quarterback position, the offensive play calling obviously has been as good as it's been since Ron Rivera has been here, and that includes my favorite Alex Smith. But I think this is a more balanced team. And this team, and like you said, this Commanders team thus far has yet to put a complete game together. There's definitely been some lapses where things have just not gone well and really gone poorly. The team's been able to overcome them thus far. So, if this team can figure it out and put a complete game together, it'll be a really fun game to watch. And that's nothing against Buffalo. I think Buffalo is a very solid team. I just think that, this Commanders team is just a lot better than where it was 2 years ago when these two teams played.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Now, let's talk about Buffalo's defense, because I think this is a little bit of an underrated area for their team. At least it has been this year. Buffalo, by my count, is 5th in the league in points per game. They're only allowing 16 points per game, and they're allowing 113 rush yards a game, which I think would put them they're middle of the pack when it comes to rush yards, maybe slightly less than when it comes to rush yards. So when you think about that, like it sort of indicates that the way to beat Buffalo is potentially on the ground. And we had a little bit of a breakout game last week with Brian Robinson. Do you like how we match up with Buffalo, considering their points per game allowance of 16, but they also have some vulnerabilities on the ground?
Yeah, so part of that 16 points a game, nothing again, I'm not going to the Bills are a very good team, and I'm not going to take anything away from them, but they have played the inept Jets offense and a not great Raiders offense that put up 16 or 17 points against a team that we just put 35 on. So I think it's way too early in the season to kind of definitively say this is a top-notch defense or strengths and weaknesses. I think this is a defense that's played 2 very bad offenses with solid players, but obviously when you lose Aaron Rodgers and replace him with Zach Wilson, things don't go well. And then, the Jets were forced to run the ball. The Raiders should be a run-first team with Josh Jacobs. I think he's there, right? I don't even know. I didn't watch the game last week.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to the Bills game yet. That's part of why I was trying to push this podcast to tomorrow night so I could do some homework. But no, it's I think this, as far as your question about matching up with the run game, I hope so, because I think this Commanders team needs a run game to be successful. I love that, Eric Bieniemy trusts Sam Howell enough to go out and throw it 30 times in the first half. I just don't think that's a solid plan. I don't think you do that. And I'm a Sam fan. Look, I'm Team Howell, says it in my little name thingy there. I think this team needs to run the ball to be successful. And Brian Robinson had a very good game last week. In the run game, I include the screen game in the run game, and I think that that should be a part of it. And we saw the success this team had. So yes, this team. I'm not sure how the Bills match up on defense. I know they've got very good players on defense. Matt Milano, very good middle linebacker. I think he's a dirty player, but that's just me. And good thing Logan Thomas isn't playing this week, because you know how dirty players in him go. I think they're a very, very good defensive football team, and they've got a lot of talent on defense. It's a little early in the season to really say where they're at against the rest of the league when they play two bad offenses. But I think our offense and their defense is a favorable matchup.
All right, let me back you up. Do you think we're a better offense than the Oakland Raiders?
Yes, I think we are a better, maybe not talent-wise. We are a better equipped offense. We're a better prepared offense, a better executing offense for the most part than the Oakland Raiders are. Does that sound fair?
That's
fair.
fair.
Obviously they have, one of the best receivers in the league. They have one of the best running backs in the league, and they have a capable quarterback. And they have a solid enough offensive line. They've got weapons. So I think talent-wise, you may give a nod to the Raiders in some areas. But I think execution-wise, where we're at right now, I think our offense is better than what Oakland does.
Josh Jacobs had -2 yards rushing against the Bills last week. I don't know how real that is, if that's Josh Jacobs being really poor this year, or if because he held out for a while, or if Buffalo's that
hurt,
good.
Didn't he get hurt in this past weekend?
He might have. He had 10 carries. So he could have.
Yeah, that seems like an injury game. I don't know why. It's also a Josh McDaniels game, so who knows what he's doing out there.
Yeah, Josh McDaniels is the X factor of tragedy.
He just does dumb stuff sometimes, yeah.
Now, I mean, still, but 10 carries.
And Scott Turner's out there, so who knows what's happening.
Right. That's right. Scott Turner is there. See,
passing game coordinator.
Yeah. Not to make this about the Raiders, but 10 carries, you still have more than -2 yards. That tells me Buffalo's doing something right?
Yeah.
So they did not sack Jimmy Garoppolo at all. Now, it's kind of funny because this is our second game in a row where our prior opponent was the Raiders. Do you guys realize that? Yep. And in both cases, Jimmy Garoppolo was not sacked against those teams. And then what happened? We, those teams came and brought pressure against us. So,
that team, because we haven't played this one yet.
We haven't played this one yet, but we will play this one. You're right. I'm so far ahead of myself.
They will sack Sam Howell. Yeah, they will sack Sam Howell.
Yes.
It's calling them.
They'll start the game with 3 sacks.
Yeah, exactly. So let me get on to the Bills. Enough about those stupid Raiders. Josh Allen last week threw 37 balls, completed 31 of them, 3 touchdowns, 2 sacks. What Josh Allen is not doing this year, and I know because I have him in fantasy football, is running. He is not running this year. He's working it from the pocket or on bootlegs and things like that, but he's throwing the football. And it's that old thing, man, when you take away something that you're really good at. Like an example of that too is like Lamar Jackson, right, with the Ravens, and he's not running as much as he used to. He's really working it from the pocket in Todd Monken's offense, and Josh Allen's trying to work from the pocket in this offense. And so far, they've been relatively successful. Is that going to come to an end, do you think, Brian, against our defensive unit here?
Yes and no. I think probably for different reasons, right? Like, yes, because we've shown that we're susceptible to quarterbacks who can break the pocket and run. And he is a big, fast guy. Like, he's not just a little bit of speed. He's fast. Like, if he breaks the pocket, we're going to be in trouble. So I'm sure their offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, has seen that on film, and there's going to probably be some designed runs, or there's going to be some, hey, just, if your first couple of reads aren't there, just run. just run because you can get yards on this defense. And we run a very similar defense to what Buffalo runs too. So it's something he'll be familiar with. So yeah, I think for that, but also at the same time, like Josh Allen is a little bit of an undisciplined player. Like he's a gambler. Like if you remember Brett Favre, like there was always that saying with him, he's a great quarterback, but he'll give you some turnovers, right? He'll throw you a couple of interceptions. That's the same thing with Josh Allen. We saw in that first game, he threw 3 interceptions. He just kept forcing it and kept forcing it. He's not a very patient player. He's aggressive. He's impatient. He wants to force things. He wants big plays to happen. So I think for us, if we can stay disciplined, right? Jamin Davis, we saw him spy Russell Wilson, and it worked out well. He ran him down a couple of times. Obviously, the big fumble was the big play. We saw him last year in that second game against the Eagles run down Jalen Hurts and shut off a lot of those running lanes. We need him to do the same thing with Josh Allen, whether they call it a spy or not. That doesn't matter to me, but Jamin really needs to keep his eye on Josh Allen because he is going to try to break the pocket. He is going to try to make that big play, right? He's got a big arm and he's going to want to uncork a 60-yard pass down to Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs. So we really got to be wary of that. If we can play sound and be disciplined and be patient like we have been and keep him in the pocket, I think there are plays to be made on him in the pass game.
It seems like Josh Allen learned his lesson a little bit from week 1. And I discount week 1 a little bit just because I always call it like the 4th preseason game now that they only play 3. But last week he was no picks, 3 touchdowns. So he figured out a little bit. I mean, I don't know how good the Raiders defense seems to be. They
not as good as the Jets.
They're not as good as the Jets, no.
Yeah,
but they held the Broncos to less points than we did too. So you just don't know. It's so freaking early in the season. You don't know. But I think what you said is interesting about Jamin Davis and the role that he could potentially play in this game. Because while Josh Allen has not been running in terms of scrambles, he has been moving out of the pocket to throw. And so Jamin Davis putting pressure on Josh Allen could create some of those turnovers that we're talking about, that he's been susceptible to this point in his NFL career. Eric, the Bills also now have a much improved running game. Last year, it was like Singletary and guys like that. This year, it is James Cook, the brother of Dalvin Cook, and my man is cooking. He had 17 carries, 123 yards last week, averaged almost 7 yards a carry. They also had Damian Harris, who averaged 4.7 yards a carry. And they also have, by the way, Latavius Murray. So they have a pretty formidable running back room. Are you concerned about those running backs at all?
Yes. You saw what Denver's running backs did to us in the first week. Or last week, they gashed us in the first quarter until we were able to adjust to these. You don't need to tell me about James Cook. He's on my fantasy team. That was a good pick on my part. And I was calling him Billy Ripken last year because he's the younger brother of a better player. But no, I think James is legit this year. Latavius Murray's your backup running back. I mean, Nyheim Hines is like your 4th string running back. I think you're doing all right, even though I think he's hurt. But this running game is to be feared, and we've seen thus far this season our defensive line, our defense in general, is susceptible, especially when teams get wide. If they can get to the edges and take advantage of maybe a little bit of over pursuit, at least in stretches. Now, our defense has adjusted well, and they stopped it when it mattered. But there's definitely been stretches, especially early in games, where the running game, but in both games, has just gashed us. So, yeah, it's always a concern because this is probably the most – nothing against Javonte Williams. I think he's awesome too. But they just didn't use him enough. But I think James Cook is going to be the best running back that we've seen thus far this year. And there's a lot of talent on that offense in general. But the offensive the running game is specifically terrifying.
Yeah, it's going to require that we play at our absolute best. In the receiving game, they have Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Kincaid. James Cook is a factor in the receiving game too. They just seem to have weapons for days all over the field. Now, Gabe Davis is their deep guy. He stretches the field. It seems like once a game, he's going for 50 plus every game he plays in. He might not get, 15 catches in a game. He's usually somewhere between 3 and 6, right? But one of them is going to be a deep shot that ends up being a game changer. You know what Stephon Diggs is going to do? He's going to sit intermediate, sometimes go deep, but he's going to hammer you away. He's a guy that's going to get their catches for him. And Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen haven't been completely on the same page this year, but they are still good enough to beat you by themselves. And of course, you have Dalton Kincaid, the tight end. Last week, he had 5 catches, 43 yards. I think they spread the ball around to almost 10 different receivers last week. Brian, how concerned are you about the passing game of the Bills?
Obviously very concerned, right? You have a good quarterback and you have receivers who can run the entire route tree and who have speed. So that's always going to kind of give you some concern, some worries. I think the good thing or something that works in our favor is, what I was just saying is that they're impatient, right? They want to be an explosive offense. When you have an explosive offense, they're just kind of impatient in general, right? They want to score touchdowns in 2-3 plays, right? They don't want to go 10, 12 plays, 80 yards and take, 4 or 5 minutes off the clock. They want to score now. And that's really going to depend on us if we can be sound. We can't have a coverage bust like I don't know if it was Percy Butler or if it was Derek Forrest or maybe a miscommunication between the two that gave up that big 60, 70-yard touchdown pass to Russell Wilson in that first or second quarter. That stuff like that can't happen because with Josh Allen and you just said it right, Gabe Davis has that speed. They could really run up some points on us if we start making some mistakes like that. So we really need to be sound. Everybody needs to know what their assignments are, and they need to stick to them from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, and make Josh Allen and make these receivers earn every inch of the yards or points that they get. Because I think as good as they are, there's opportunities there for us to get some turnovers and to kind of frustrate them a little bit.
Buffalo only has 3 sacks on the year so far. Montez Sweat has that many by himself so far this season. So I think this is a really good opportunity for Sam Howell to show his full arsenal from the pocket because it doesn't appear they're getting pass rush so far. Conversely, the Commanders have 10 sacks on the year. So you see the difference there. I would not expect a whole lot of heat coming from Buffalo this week in terms of defense. Now, they must play some really sound coverage, though, considering the points that they have not given up this year, I should say. All right. Eric, give me your prediction for this game.
It's going to be a fun game. They will get sacks this week. Sam he's still a young quarterback. He holds onto the ball too long. He goes through spurts where the pressure gets to him. They will probably blitz. So my first prediction, 4 sacks. They will get 4 sacks this week because that's the kind of offense that we have. Our offensive line will struggle with the pressure early on. This is going to be a tough game. Like I said earlier, I like the matchup a lot better than I liked it 2 years ago. When these two teams played and the Commanders got their doors blown off. But I think I'm going to give a nod to Buffalo this week. I think they're just going to be a little bit too much, but it's going to be a much better game than it was. And I'm going to say 27-24 Bills. 27-24. This team will put up a respectable showing. We'll score some touchdowns. The defense will play well enough, but I think Buffalo's offense will just get it done just barely. But I'm more than happy to be proven wrong.
I can see it.
Don't at me.
Definitely at him. Brian, your prediction.
Buffalo's a really good football team. Josh Allen's great quarterback. Their defense has been sound for several years now. They got a bunch of Pro Bowlers. There's no way we can win. Just none. I mean, Ron should probably email Sean McDermott and just kind of forfeit. And no, absolutely not. The odds are stacked against us, right? They should win. They have the star power. They have the names that people know, and they have lots and lots of wins. But that's nice. They still got to do it on Sunday, and I'm gonna go with the Commanders 31, Buffalo 28. Lots of points, close game, and some things bounce our way, and we come out on top, 31-28.
I like
We
it.
get away
So
with some face masks and pass interferences.
Yeah.
That'll be a new thing.
And look, if this was Buffalo in week 10, I'd probably be like, no, there's no way. But we're still in this early point where this is where you steal some of these wins. And we haven't been able to steal any of these wins these last couple of years because we've been 1-4, 1-5, 2-7. And we've had to play catch up. So if they want to have a season, this is how you got to, because it's going to get even worse from here in terms of competition. We're going to get tougher and tougher after this. So we steal one. Maybe we shouldn't steal it, but I think we do steal it. 31-28.
yeah, it's funny
like
because the Bills are also fighting the same battle, right? Because Miami is pulling away in that division, and they have to win. Like, they need to win to keep pace.
Yeah.
You don't know what the Patriots are going to be. But it's not like the division is not the cupcake that I shouldn't say it used to be, because the Patriots for a long time owned that division. But
Yeah, they're
over over the last 3 years, Buffalo's something like 47-13 or something. I mean, that number doesn't add up, but they've lost very few games. And that includes 2 13-3 seasons. And so I'm not going to come on here and act like, our renaissance is going to be, just something we should ignore Buffalo's recent success, because I don't think they've really gotten worse per se. But I tell you what, I think that this team has a lot of heart and a lot of fight, and I think that matters to some degree in the NFL. If you watch college football, you saw what Colorado State did with Colorado. They took them to the limit, right? And is it with a huge talent gap and disparity? They just had the heart and desire that night. Now, they ultimately lost, but they took them to the limit. So I think this can be a similar game. I really do. But at the same time, I could also see this being a game where it goes much more like the first half against Denver. And we have questions to answer about that first half against Denver. Is that real or is it not real, right? Like, is that a thing or is it not a thing, right? Those flaws and deficiencies that Denver was exposing. We saw some of that against the Cardinals week 1 early on. We made Josh Dobbs look competent. That little elephant is still in the room somewhere until it's not. You know what I mean? And Josh Allen and the Bills are a team that will expose that, whatever that is. Long story short, I think I'm going to say I'm feeling really optimistic this week, and I did last Sunday on the pregame show where I predicted the Commanders to beat the Broncos. I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to say the Commanders are going to beat the Bills this week to go to 3-0.
Yeah, you're feeling it. You're
Yeah,
feeling it.
yeah. Talk to me on Sunday. But I think it's going to be, I'm going to say it's going to be 30. No.
Ooh.
Yeah. No. I'm going to go 26-16. And the only way you can make that happen is turnovers. That's the only way that can happen is turnovers. If we don't get turnovers, it's going to be like 42 to, I think, 17 Buffalo. So got to get those turnovers going. I think
I'm the bad guy this week. How about that?
Wait, you know the X Factor?
I'm usually the Homer Simpson. I'm going to have to go review my life choices now.
The X Factor I just thought of, and I think it absolutely helped last week. I think it's going to help this week, right? Bieniemy came from that AFC West. They played the Broncos. He knows the personnel. He's played against those players, schemed against them, and in particular Vance Joseph, somebody who he knows very well, is his best friend. But he's played the Bills in the playoffs. Like, he's seen this defense before multiple times. He knows what works against them and what doesn't. He knows their coverages because he's had to game plan it. And I think that will help. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't screw up the play and we don't execute. But from a preparation standpoint, I think that's going to be key. We're not going to be unprepared so many times before when we were unprepared. So I think that comes into play in this game.
Well, to that point, Buffalo has beaten the Chiefs the last 2 times they've met in the regular season pretty handily, and then the Chiefs beat them in the playoffs both times. So, hey, this is a regular season game, so maybe that point works against you, Brian. I don't know. We'll see. All
Don't
right.
worry, we're going to get blown out probably. Watch. That's what'll happen.
They're a much more complete team than we faced so far. I will say that. Eric, final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't like being the only one to pick against our team this week, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go 27-24 Bills, but I don't like my decision anymore. So I might change it later, but as of the end of this broadcast, I'm going with the same one, and I'm more than happy for you guys to be right.
Hopefully we are. Brian, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. It's the game sold out. The game is sold out. I don't know if it's Commanders fans or it's probably all Buffalo. Hopefully it's not all Buffalo. Hopefully it's more like a 50-50 split. And hey, nothing's set in stone. There's no reason why we can't win. We've lose this game in years past. We lose it bad in years past. We get blown out. If they want respect, if they want to be thought of as a different team, a better team, win the game. That's what you got to do. Otherwise, it's going to be the same old story. So a lot of momentum. Hopefully they can pull it out.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people saying this is house money, but when you're a team climbing up as steep of a hill of respectability that we're climbing, there's no such thing as house money. We got to win these kind of games to get our respect back in this league. This matters and this counts. And I think we need to pull it out, and I think we will. And if we do, you can rest assured that we have arrived back on a respectable stage, both in football quality and organizational quality. I'm counting on that this weekend. I really am. And I can't say it enough. We need 4 quarters. We need 4 quarters. Buffalo's too good to play 2 really good quarters and 2 crappy quarters and expect to come out on top. So,
Micah Hyde, their Pro Bowl safety is questionable right now. Got a hamstring injury. Might play, might not, but something we'll keep an eye on.
Sorry, I have one more final thought. Ellie is trying to trade me back the player that I just traded him for the player that he traded me for him in fantasy football. I'm trying to make sense of that right now.
Be a good guy and accept that trade, because I need a tight end in fantasy. I'm struggling at the tight end position. Kyle Pitts sucks.
Everybody else on that team sucks. Kyle Pitts is good.
What are we doing at tight end? Because Logan's not going to play this week. What are we doing?
We're good. We got the Bates and Turner show. We're good to go.
Yeah, the Bates Motel and Ted Turner Network. So, hey, look. We got receivers, man. We got mad receivers that we don't even hardly use. I mean, we'll talk about this another day, but just the amount. It's weird. For as much as we throw the ball, you don't really see a ton of catches. Like, if we spread the ball out so much, I think that's the Eric Bieniemy offense. I get it, but man, I feel like we still need to target our top guys more somehow, some way. But as long as we're winning, nobody cares. That's not a complaint I'm going to exercise right now. But if this turns around, I'm going to be back on this topic. You better believe it. So anyway, thank you everybody for listening. Make sure you are subscribed. If you're listening to us on audio, tell your friends. Listen to it in a car when you're with your friends, even if it's your grandmother, your grandfather. We don't care. Turn the podcast on and say, hey, I found this new great Commanders podcast. And then when you're done with that, come to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get all of our fresh drops. We are dropping 3 pods a week now, y'all. 3. You're not getting this from anywhere else. At least not this quality. Anyway, we are out of here. We will catch you on Sunday. We'll have a live pregame show. We'll also have a live postgame show. Make sure you guys look out for notifications for that. Tune in, and we will catch you Sunday. We are out of here.